All right, we are live. I just need for the video to connect on my other monitor over here so that I can grab that link and put it in our group so that our community can use the link to conveniently join us live on YouTube and enter the live chat. Speaking of groups, if you are a solopreneur or entrepreneur who is struggling to get to your first six figures in business, you should be in our group. Go to shaycannon.info/group. It is free, but it's more like a mastermind. And I've heard that the value is better than some of them paid masterminds that y'all are in. We have three pillars of value that makes it so valuable. Number one, we actually come together and commune with opportunities to spend time with each other live and virtually live. And number two, we actually collaborate. That means we come together to make each other's businesses better and make money together. And number three, we have conversations that are transformational for your business growth, which is probably what can fill the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So again, it's free. Don't know why you're not in it. shaycannon.info/group. Get in the group. That's where all the value is. You think this morning show is something? Get in the group. All right. So let's see, do I have everything that I need over here? Oh, y'all know what? I skipped a step. So let's put this link over here. Boom, they got it. Now let me make sure that I can see this chat. There we go. I can see the live chat. Let's get started. Guess what? We haven't even started yet. Good morning. Welcome to Unlock Your First Six Figures Morning Show. I am your host, Shay Cannon. Everything we do around here starts with a blog of value. This week's blog is at shaycannon.com/manage risk. Manage risk, because what we're talking about all week long is risk management for solopreneurs. Why are we talking about that? Because most of y'all don't use words like operations and risk management. You don't even think about such things, but whether you think about it or not, it's still present, okay? It's still a reality. So I wanted to take this week to get you a little familiar, right? Because what we know is if you are a corporation, this will be an entire department within your corporation, risk management department. It's that important, okay? So I want you as a solopreneur to start thinking about the managing of risk, to start thinking about risk, period, okay? So yesterday what we talked about is it a risk or is it not a risk, right? So we talked about some of the top risk for solopreneurs, but the thing is, your risk might be a fear and maybe not a risk, because we're just one person. We only have our mindset most of the time. That is, we're thinking in a vacuum. And so some of the things we think is a risk really is a fear that if we get over it, it's a lot of reward on the other side of it. If you want to hear more about that, go to yesterday's replay. That was part one, risk or no risk, okay? Today, we're going to talk about risk categories, okay? Risk categories. It's going to help you to break this thing down so that you can start looking across your business and business model for more opportunities to prevent risk, okay? So categories, just as there are different parts of your business, there are different types of risks that can happen in business. These risks can be categorized in several key areas. We're going to focus on a few of the main areas, okay? So there's financial risks, such as cash flow issues or unexpected expenses, okay? There is operational risk, like process efficiencies or supply chain disruptions. Okay, there are market risk. This includes changes in your consumer demand or economic downturns. And Lord knows we know about that. We had a pandemic, and then we had a recession, and then we had a second recession. So we know about those things that can be market risk, right? Legal risk, which involve compliance with regulations or contractual disputes, that type of thing. And last but not least, reputational risks, okay? And a lot of y'all don't even think about this, but you should, where negative public perception or customer dissatisfaction can impact your brand. So understanding and managing these risk categories are crucial for maintaining business stability and fostering growth, okay? So that's what the blog said, okay? But you know, here in the morning show, we give you more. So I want to go a little more in depth with these categories. And as I am going through these categories a little more in depth, I want you to start thinking about, do you have any risk in these categories? Okay. So this is where you're going to need your ink pen. All right. Because we're going to go back over those same categories. I'm going to go in a little more detail, but this time I want you to have a listening ear of, does that affect me and how? Okay. Now, at the end, when we go through all categories, I'm going to go around. We're going to start with Dr. Toya. And what I'm going to need to know is, which one do you feel like is the biggest risk? Okay. You don't have to tell me about all of them, but out of the ones that you've listed, which one do you think is your biggest risk? All right. So let's get started. So number one was financial risk, okay? There are risks related to cash flow expenses and financial stability. Let me give you some examples, okay? So cash flow issues are you face with inconsistent revenue streams leading to cash shortages for covering operational expenses, okay? So as an example, you're running a freelance business. You might experience cash flow problems when a client delays payments, okay, leaving you unable to pay for essential software subscriptions. That could be an example of cash flow issue under financial risk, okay? Another example of financial risk could be unexpected expenses, okay? Unanticipated costs such as equipment breakdowns or emergency repairs can strain a solopreneur's limited resources. Okay, you want an example of that? Let's just say you have a home bakery and you face unexpected expenses due to a key piece of kitchen equipment that you need, right? You got to replace it or you're not in business, but you don't really have the money to replace it. It was an unexpected expense, right? Let me give you another example. I talk about this all too much, right? Underpricing services, right? You may undervalue your services, leading to revenue shortfalls that prevent your business growth. Let me give you an example. You are a consultant, this is a lot of us, or a coach, charging too little for your services, struggling to cover your overhead expenses, leading to long-term financial instability, okay? So all of that was examples of financial risk. I want to make sure you understand. So I'm giving you 3 examples of each category, okay? Now, write down, do you think you have, you're open to risks there? And then at the end, we're going to go through all of them. We'll decide, is that the biggest one? The second category was operational risk. These relate to internal processes of running a business, including efficiency and resource management, right? So this is where I come in, right? Chief Operating Officer. But let me give you some examples of operational risk. Process inefficiencies. Without streamlined systems, you can waste time on repetitive tasks and reducing the productivity. And what we know is, for us, time is literally money, right? Let me go to supply chain disruptions for you product-based businesses. I try to throw something in there for y'all every now and then, right? But relying on a third party, okay? Relying on a third party, because when we do product development, all of us aren't in the kitchen mixing up products, okay, in the garage, banging and putting stuff together. Some of us are private labeling, and even if you are mixing products, you still have a supply chain for the ingredients, right? So you may face delays, shortages, impacting the ability to deliver products, okay? But let me tell you how service-based businesses have a supply chain also, because a lot of us depend on other service providers on top of what we do, right? So sometimes we have other service providers that help us provide the full service. And so if something happens to that person's part of the service, our service supply chain is disrupted. So the same thing can happen to us service-based businesses. All right, what about inadequate tools or technology? Relying on outdated or improper tools can slow down operations and increase the likelihood of errors. Okay, so those are 3 examples of operational risk. Let's go to our third category, market risk. These involve external factors such as customer demand and market changes that can affect your business, okay? So an example of that could be changing consumer demand. I have a great example of that. At one time, I sold Easter baskets. The baskets were in the shape of a big egg. All I had to do was throw all the stuff in there with some grass and overstuff it. You unbutton it and it pop out, right? The first year that I did that, the first Easter season, I sold so many, right? By the second Easter season, demand wasn't as big. By the third Easter season, the people found out where to get these eggs themselves. And so sales were all the way down, right? So there is a chance that your consumer demand can wane and affect your business, right? Sometimes it could be that now your thing is no longer unique. Sometimes it could be now somebody else has copycat, or, as business goes, somebody comes in with their version of your thing or a better mousetrap, right? But those are examples of how consumer demand can change. Economic downturns, we know this. We know this because we've been through the recession and then another recession on top of that when we thought it was waning. But economic slowdowns, where people are holding their money closer to their vest and not spending as much, can definitely make it harder for us out here with our businesses, right? Especially if you're in that category of things that are not necessarily seen as a painkiller, it's seen as a vitamin, right? So it's not seen as something that is completely necessary. It's seen as something that is, a kind of nice to have, right? Because what happens is when we can't afford some stuff, the nice to have stuff, we don't spend money on it. We are struggling to spend money on the things that are necessary. So in economic downturns, if you don't have a product or a service that is necessary, you can be affected or impacted, okay? And increased competition. We kind of talked about this, right? But more competitors are entering the market and can reduce your market share. Okay, it might even can reduce the value of what you can charge, right? Especially if you have not taken the time to build a brand. Okay, so those are the three that could be market risks. Let's get into legal risk. Okay, these risks involve regulatory compliance and legal obligations. The hugest one for most of us is going to be contractual disputes, right? Y'all going to LegalZoom, you're going to Google and getting these contract templates, right? And hey, do the best you can while you can, but your goal should be to go to somebody that is a licensed attorney and get one specifically for your business's needs, your business's risk, okay? Because we all are trying to protect different things based on our unique situation, right? So contracts is going to affect all of us, but there are some of us who are in industries that have compliance and regulations. Okay. And so when you are in non-compliance with these regulations, failing to adhere to local, state, federal laws about what you do, that's a problem. Okay. That is a risk. Okay. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I was saying how I had started putting the medical disclaimer on Dr. Joffrey's TikTok. And they were saying, well, I don't know if that's necessary. The other influencers are not worried about it. They're not really doing it. And then he was like, but also take into account, I'm the person that when I sold t-shirts, I would sell t-shirts without a license for certain universities and just wait for them to give me a cease and desist. Well, baby, clearly your risk tolerance is higher than mine. Okay. We're going to go with the disclaimer. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to try to mitigate risk as much as we can. That's what we would rather do. So look for whatever compliance you're supposed to be in with whatever regulations are associated with you. Intellectual property violations, right? More and more of us are creating workshops, curriculum, books, all this kind of stuff, right? We have our own formulas for our transformations. So you need to protect your own, but you also need to watch out for infringing on other people's, right? Because what we know is some of that building of a better mousetrap, the whole base of the mousetrap is somebody's intellectual property. Be careful, okay? Be careful. I know a lot of people who like to take, best-selling books that are hugely transformational. They like to create supplemental stuff to go along with it, but the baseline intellectual property was not yours. So you can't mention them people's stuff. You can't use their formulas. You see what I'm saying? So we have to be careful about that. It's not just protecting our own. It's, hey, are you infringing on somebody else's? All right. Let's go to number 5, which is our last risk category for today. It is reputational risk. Okay. Reputational risk. This refers to possible harm to your reputation, which can impact customer trust and business success. Okay. So some examples of this can be a bunch of negative consumer reviews or customer reviews or client reviews, right? In business, we're going to get some. because, you know, humans go human. So we're going to get some, but do they outweigh the good reviews, or are they the only reviews available to see? You know what I'm saying? So bad reviews online, on social media, it can damage your credibility and dissuade possible clients, right? So again, we tend to not give a lot. I feel like as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, sometimes we act like Geminis, right? We act two-faced around this mug. We act one way as a business owner, and we act another way as a consumer. So as a business owner, you'd be like, you know, that little bad review don't mean nothing. I ain't gonna worry about it. It's this, is that, right? But as a consumer, you the first one to go see, do they have 5 stars on Amazon? Is the Fiverr seller, you know, are they a top seller? What are their reviews saying? Oh, this one review said these folks didn't get towels at the hotel. I love towels, so I can't go there, but they got 5,000 reviews and only one of them said bad towels, but you over there acting up. So you act one way as a consumer, you act another way as a business owner. We need to look from our consumer eyes, okay, when we have our business. All right, because you buy one way, so why would you think that your customers and your clients and your consumers don't buy that way or take all of those things into consideration? All right, social media missteps. Social media missteps. Let me tell you how I don't care if you are on-site type person in real life. I don't care if you don't back down from you know, arguments and stuff in real life. When it comes to your business's reputation should be held in higher regard than your personal one. If you ain't got no personal reputation that you care about, you should care about that business one. So watch what you say on social media. Watch what you say to people, no matter what they say to you. Because let me tell you what my grandma used to say all the time. My grandmother used to say, hey, if you fight with a fool from afar, nobody can tell the difference. It just looked like two fools, right? So we don't want you looking a fool. You let them look a fool and be like, you know, thank you for your service. We appreciate you giving us a try. We hate that happened to you. Hey, go to ChatGPT and get you some verbiage, okay? Don't go back and forth with people online like you do in real life, okay? Don't do it. All right. Let's talk about some failures, because we are human, right? Especially if we're a solopreneur, we have an increased risk of failure, all right? Whether it be products or whether it be service. But a poor quality product or service can damage your reputation and lead to customer churn, all right? But we can mitigate that. You're a human, you're dealing with another human. First of all, can you apologize? Second of all, when you make mistakes, try to make people as whole as possible. That's your job, okay? Your job is, if something is your fault, to make the other person as whole as possible. So even again, in your real life, if you're not the type of person to apologize, if you want money from your business, apologize. And then tell them, communicate the process that you're going to undergo to make it right, to make them as whole as possible. Because as humans, that's really all we want. That's what the majority of people want. They're not looking to bring about your downfall. They paid for something and they want what they paid for. And if you failed them, you need to come back and try to make it right. Okay? So those were the 5 categories. I gave you 3 examples within each category. I want to know now, from the list that you made, what do you feel like from these 5 categories is the biggest risk in your business? Let's talk about it. Let's check in on YouTube over here. Glow said, reputation risk is my fear with my lock business. Yep. So again, it's kind of like parenting, y'all. It's people out there that swear they're the perfect parent, but if you are human, you are imperfect by nature, so there is nothing that you do is perfect, okay? But there is a way that you do it. You can try to make every decision out of love, right? There are things that you can do to kind of take your humanity in consideration. And that's why you have things like guarantees to help people feel more at ease. And so, you know, Glow, if they're not guaranteed to like their hairstyle, then your goal is to make them as whole as possible, right? And that is, hey, I'm going to keep going until you like it. It's I'm going to give you a partial refund. Something has to happen to try to make them whole, right? All right. Let me get started with Dr. Toya. Dr. Toya, out of the 5 categories, is one of the categories includes something that you fear is the biggest risk in your business. Let's see if Dr. Toya is available. There she is.
Yeah, I think the financial risk probably is one that I think about, particularly as, you know, bringing on contractors and additional team members, like, am I making enough consistently to be able to make sure that I can pay them each month? That's something that I think about.
I love that. That's a real thing, right? And keep in mind, nobody else can say financial risk as associated with hiring team. So find something else if that was yours. Okay. So Dr. Toya, one of the solutions to that could be hiring people on a project by project basis. Because at the end of the day, the project can be funded probably easier than thinking about a month by month into infinity. So possibly what you do is you fund a project, right? So hey, the project, I'm going to probably need about this many hours to get this done. So I'm going to sell this thing that's going to fund this project. And now the project is funded, including the team member that's needed to do the job, right? So sometimes that's a little easier on our minds than, oh my God, every month I got to sell at least this amount every month into perpetuity. Like that does something to us. Right? That'll stop us from getting started. But if you look at it as a project by project, what you can say is, hey, I'm gonna hold this workshop and I have a goal of selling, 10 people into this workshop. And what those 10 people will do, the money from this workshop will go to fund this project. And I'm going to hire these people to work this project. And I have the funds from the workshops that I sold. Does that make sense, Dr. Toya? And does that help any?
Sorry. Yes. Yes, it makes sense. And I think, yes.
Cool beans, no problem. Now that doesn't mean we don't have, one or two VAs that we have on that are still going month by month. But what happens is it took a lot for us to hire that first VA, right? Yeah. And then we start talking about adding on to them month by month. It really does feel scary. So you might still have your VA that's month by month, but then when you start talking about other people, then we start looking at project by project. Now, if you haven't made it to a VA that's month by month, then start with a VA that's project by project. Okay. So thank you for that, Dr. Toya. All right, let's go to Debbie. Debbie, which of the 5 categories do you feel like is at biggest risk? And tell us what risk you are thinking.
I was looking at the legal risk and intellectual property, because, if someone comes to me and says they want me to use certain elements, assets, I'm assuming that they have clearance. I'll ask them if it's theirs, if they own it, but, I'm going by what they say. Yes, it's theirs. That could be a little tricky.
It could. Now, I am not a licensed attorney. Shout out to Dr. Toya for reminding me to say stuff like that. I'm not a licensed attorney. However, when you go to one, right, and you get your contracts done for your service contracts, you need to ask them to pay particular attention to the indemnification clause, okay? Or maybe you need a separate indemnification contract agreement, right? Because basically what that is you can't control what these people come to you with, but you can tell them, hey, I asked you, was it yours? You said it was yours. Anything that comes about because it wasn't yours, that's on you. So that's what indemnification means. Alabama might be getting in the way, but hey, look it up. So is that helpful to you?
Yes, it is.
Cool beans. All right. Kimberly's probably at the Dream Funder. So Kimberly, you put yours. Oh, she did. So Kimberly says supply chain and product quality. Yes, I definitely understand that. So Kimberly has a product, right? So supply chain, let's talk about that. This is why in product development, right? I always tell people with a product is in product development, when you were searching for the people you were going to finalize and go with, you should always keep the list of all the people you encountered and rank that list. Who was it that you would have went with second? Who was it you would have went with third, right? We need to always understand that if one supply avenue goes down, we need to already have in mind how we're going to go to who is going to be the next person and how, or the next company and how we're going to go to them, right? So if it's too late because you've already developed your product, you've already finalized, and now you forgot all that information, it's never too late to go back and create a list. If you were to start over and that manufacturer were to go away, or that supply chain piece were to go away, who would you then go with now? Depending on what's going on now. What are your options now? Let's create that list. We don't wait until something happens. We want to create the list. We want to go ahead and have conversations with them, right? because that's what's going to help us to rank them is things like, what is your lead time? Right? Do you have this stuff in-house, or are you outsourcing stuff? So that means you got a lead time, and then you're going to give me a lead time, right? So things like that is what you want to do, Kimberly, to kind of have that backup plan in place. And I would say have no less than about 2 of suppliers for each thing that you need in your back pocket. And already have had these conversations, know how to get started, know what these lead times are going to be, production times, all of that stuff, so that you have in mind all the elements that you need when you are putting together a solution. All right, cool beans. Let's go to Cheryl. Cheryl, which of the 5 categories do you see as a bigger risk? And give us an example of the risk that you are thinking. Kimberly said, got it. Thanks. You're welcome, Kimberly. All right, Cheryl might have went back to sleep. Oh, there she go. Come on, Cheryl.
The legal and compliance with business, state, federal, all those they change all the time.
Mhm.
And I can move from one city within a state and have to have a business license, and move to another and don't have to have a business license. Or I can't practice, for instance, in one area, I actually had to do the rent-a-office, where you had that address and you could go in and have your conferences, your meetings there, that kind of stuff, because I lived in a residential neighborhood where the HOA said no through traffic, period. If it wasn't business, if it wasn't, personal, that kind of stuff, absolutely, even if it was just one person stopping by. So staying on top of those things are incredible. And then, of course, the federal stuff, just keep getting those pamphlets and seeing, where you need to be in compliance.
Love it. Love it. So 2 things come to mind to me. And again, I am not a licensed attorney, so it's just giving you somewhere to start, right? The first thing is going to be, you need to make it a part of your process, right? Your documented SOPs, that when people come in, one of the first things you do in the intake is ask them the country, the state, the city, the county. We want to add all the municipalities that touch you. We want to know about as part of the intake service, so that also a part of the process, when we get to things that could be a problem on those levels, we can make it a point as a part of process to check it out. So that's the first one. The second one is also get with a licensed attorney, right? And in the contract, you can have clauses in there that says that certain things that you do are to the best of your ability, but that you are not a licensed attorney and you don't know all, right? And so that you're doing it but that they should always check any approvals with their own licensed attorney. You see what I'm saying? So that's why you don't make a move without getting client approval, and that client approval needs to be more than verbal. Because at the end of the day, what they're saying with each approval in writing, whether it be in your project management system, whether it be in an email, whether it be in signing off on a document digitally, this is why we get those signatures and those approvals phase by phase, because what they're saying is, I approve all of this. And so when you have your contract, you can have in there, hey, your approval means that you checked it with your attorney. Does that make sense, Cheryl?
Oh yeah, one of the best things I ever did was to pay attention to the arbitration clause and make sure that any and everything was adjudicated in the state in which I live. That way I don't have to fly here if somebody wants to go into court, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It's it seems minor and we may not have to deal with it, but the very time you leave it out, you'll have to deal with it.
Exactly. And again, we are not licensed attorneys. We are lay people. Go find out from your licensed attorney. All right. Thank you, Cheryl. All right. Let's go to Dr. Tachi. Dr. Tachi, which of the 5 categories, and give us what it is you think you are at risk with in that category?
Operational and supply chain. And I'm saying this because I'm service-based. So what has happened is, you already know that the first platform that I was using was rubbish and the people were trash. And so I was like, bye. But I had already had in my back pocket one that I was using. So now StreamYard is trying to act an orangutan. And they're going up double for everybody.
Oh.
If you haven't gotten it, the word, maybe it's because you've already paid. So I had paid for the entire year. So I hadn't gotten it yet. So it still remains to be seen if they're going to backtrack and renege on this. But a lot of people got letters that if they were, going month to month, that starting next month, it was going to go up. So, for example, if you had the $49 plan, it was going to be $88 now.
Ooh, you about to get
So
some
that's a
home
supply
videos.
chain thing. Exactly, where you're like, okay, for me, this was like whatever, I have plan B and this is how I'm scheduling. So now I have plan C, D, and F that I'm testing now.
Cool beans. Well, let us know, because don't mess around and get these Zoom videos for season 2, because I ain't finna pay no $100 for StreamYard. They can go on somewhere.
No problem, just take out the damn Zoom.
Listen, just saying. Yes, so I do love that you have identified the area. I do love that you have already started to find alternatives, right? And it's amazing that a lot of these people, I feel like software companies, SaaS, software as a service companies, are doing this extra hard as a category, as an industry, right? Because Samcart, y'all know right now, I don't have to pay for Samcart until November, because I went completely off on them, because they more than doubled the amount I had to pay, and just opted to upgrade my plan on their own. And I go in my account and I see I have a deduction for $300 and something. Are you out your mind? Give me my money back. And so now they keep sending me these surveys, right? And I answer every one of them and let them know that we are migrating over to Go High Level. $97 a month, I can have all of your features and benefits because I'm not studying you, right? So I love that you have already solved your own problem, which is finding out what are the next best things and actually testing them before it comes time for you to make a final decision. So I love that for you, Dr. Tachi. Heather said, I just looked, $45 a month. What the hell? That's $20 more per month for me. Baby, don't get me started. Okay, so Keith is next. Mr. Keith, he said one of his biggest risks for graphic designers is customers who don't pay on time. This hurts my cash flow, leading to delayed expenses, reduced profitability, and increased stress. Yes. So Keith, us service-based businesses, a lot of us tend to forget that you can ask for a deposit, right? So start off by asking for a deposit. If you're already asking for a deposit, ask for one bigger, ask for a bigger deposit, right? And we don't deliver until we get final payment, period. Okay, so there needs to be a deposit for you to get started, a deposit for them to save a place in the queue, right? So even if you're not getting started right now, the deposit says, hey, you're going to be the third one from now, right? So that's the deposit. Make sure the deposit is large enough. And second of all, you're not getting these graphics until you pay the bill. So there should not be no slow pay and they have your graphics, right? Now, we can't stop them from slowly paying and they don't have the graphic. But what you're not going to do is slowly pay me and you already got these graphics I done slaved over. That's what's not going to happen. Okay. So, Keith, hopefully that is helpful. You can come off the mic if you want to and let me know if that was helpful, if that is an example.
Yes, that was helpful. That was helpful.
Yeah.
I already asked for a deposit.
Yes.
Then I don't send the file over to them until they pay. But still that's like holding me up, like, okay, you mark everything good, everything finalized, but while you ghosting me and I got the files. So they come back like 30 days later and they say, hey, your payment.
Gotcha. So I'll tell you another thing you can insert in there then. So now that I know more that you're not giving them the files, you can break down larger projects into phases and have them pay per phase. In other words, yes, you take a deposit, right? But then you don't do all the work and then ask for the money. What we do is we go into phases. We say, okay, these amount of graphics are ready. Go ahead and pay for these so I can start on the next stage. But I'm not starting on the next phase until you pay for this amount of the partial graphics. Does that make sense, Keith?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
way you haven't done entire projects and you're waiting on payment. So break them projects down. Hey, we're going to start with your social media graphics. We're going to start with your website graphics. Then we're going to do your social media graphics. Then we're going to do these graphics. But you're going to have to pay for them along the way after
That
your
makes
deposit.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool beans. Dr. Tachi, and by the way, Dr. Tachi, Glow also wants to know what alternatives you come up with when you have them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh gosh. Okay, yes. So piggybacking sorry, I got distracted like by a puppy.
No
Okay,
problem.
so piggybacking off of or in tandem with what Keith said, how do you because that's also a thing with like live streaming. So I remember when I had a big contract with the university, right? But they started acting, they were fine at first, and then they started to get a little, what's the name? So the thing is, we had a regular show on a schedule, and then it took them longer and longer to pay. Now, part of the thing is, it's not like they could themselves, like the entity, it went through a whole thing, then it went to accounts payable, and then so it was a whole thing. So if somebody messed up somewhere in the line, that's what made it take that much longer. So finally, I got fed up. And, when they asked me, I was like, well, no, unless you can do a deposit. And they weren't set up to do deposits. I said, well, unless you can do a deposit, the answer is no. So they were great to work with in terms of things. However, I had to be like, no, but there's no way to partially do a live stream. It's either done or not. So in that case, how would you suggest someone proceed?
And this happens to a lot of people in a lot of fields, right? Because corporate entities, they play us a lot. Us small people, they play us a lot because they know we're happy to have that contract. They start off well, and then all of a sudden, they done put themselves on net 60. Ain't nobody gave you permission to do net 60. What is wrong with you, right? So one thing I love to do is I love to over communicate. I love to over communicate because I'm gonna shut you down. Your shit ain't gonna happen. And so this is where your documents need to be by a licensed attorney, address your particular risk, right? So this will be in the documents. It will say, hey, what the payment schedule is like and how we shutting your shit down and what you not gonna get when you don't pay and how we're gonna cycle you down from non-payment, right? So that needs to be in the contract. Talk to your licensed attorney. However, again, you have to have ahead of time, what does that cycling down look like, right? So that you start to over communicate when they're getting close, like before they even start being in violation, you're over communicating the whole time. Okay, so you're the problem why your podcast didn't go this month. So either fix it or you just ain't got no podcast. That's on you. It's so funny because you go different places, especially here around Mexico, right? Y'all know I live in Mexico. You see condos being built, and you can see some that are put up fast, and you can see some that have been sitting stagnant for years, and they just came back 5 years later trying to complete it. Why? Because don't have them folks money if you want to. Construction ends today. We don't care. Look, you ain't got our money. We ain't got your cement blocks. How about that one? So you have to, we as solopreneurs, we really have to protect ourselves because these larger entities, they know that we're dependent on them. We're glad to have them. So we try to give them more leeway, but they are the type of entities that you give them an inch and they will take 75 miles. And we can't afford to do that. So because we know that they try to do us like that, we have to protect ourselves to begin with. So put in your contracts what that sunsetting is going to look like and what the violations are, what that'll start that winding down of your service. Over communicate, okay, as a part of your process. All right. So does that help, Dr. Tachi? Because they take advantage of us like they don't care. And they will leave. Let me tell you how they will leave you unpaid. They will do a restructure and go bankrupt and leave you unpaid.
Absolutely.
They don't care nothing about us.
They don't.
Yeah.
And I hate that net 30 thing. I'm like, net 30 means you don't have the money to do it in the first place. So
listen, this is why I don't like government contracts. You're not gonna reimburse me for what I did for you. I'm not paying for stuff up front. I don't like it. I don't care how much it is, how lucrative. I don't want to pay up front. Look, the way I guess I got trust issues. I don't care. I don't want to do it. That causes me stress. So I don't do government contracts. There are people out there that are successful with it. I'm not telling you not to do it. But what I know is what my risk tolerance is. Okay. So I ain't going to be able to do it. So thank you, Dr. Tachi. All right. Dewana, which of the 5 risks do you think you're in danger of? And give us more information about what in that category are you at risk of? And Dewana might be in down
I'm
with
here.
dog.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm
Look,
here. I'm here.
are we in the risk of you being in down with dog and not able to talk to us?
I think market risk is mine because if I don't have a client, everything is about my client. So if my clients drop out, then I'm not getting paid that week or I'm not getting paid that month. That's my biggest issue.
So I think that is actually financial risk. So that
Okay.
is revenue. So market risk will be all of a sudden something goes out that tells you it's toxic to be a plant-based, you know what I'm saying, have a plant-based diet. That would be
Okay.
market risk, right?
Okay.
So yours is revenue because what you're talking about is an interruption of cash flow.
Right.
So for you, like we said many times, you might have to do partnerships. Stop relying on just the marketing that you do and rely on some partnerships. Because what we know is one key partnership can be a 6-figure partnership in addition to your individual clients. So for you, it's going to be about making your offer available to different types of clients, right? In different ways. Having it set up where you have some passive income and the active income. So we always talk about how all of your income can't be relying on you cooking, right? That's the passive versus the active. Then we have talked about all of it can't be like a la carte stuff. Some of it has to be recurring income. So some of these people need to be on a subscription to receive meals, right? So I'll put all of that together and that's going to help you to have a better cash flow.
Okay.
Cool beans. All right. This is a good one. This is a good one. Y'all getting some good ones. All right. Shawana, Kennedy Media, which are the 5 categories of risk do you feel like is your biggest and what is the risk within that category so we can try to solve it today?
Well, honestly, because we've had some amazing responses, mine is a combination of what honestly really have been said. I love what Keith was even saying, but of course, I work around that because I kind of work ahead now. So I let them know no work begins without full payment. And I always now, and I put them at least 14 to 21 days ahead. So I get the money even before that, even though I have the cancellation type clause that way, because I have been stuck where you decide and you don't follow the 60-day, 90-day rule. So then that means I've already created at least 30 days ahead of content. So because of that happening, that is part of the risk for me when I think about that. And then of course the resources, it's the thought of taking on more, but not having the resources so that it doesn't hurt any new client because you do have to have a faster turnaround. So those are always top of mind and part of my concern as I grow.
Love it. Okay. That was a good one too, Shawana. So what I suggest for that is 2 things. Number 1, I suggest that you have a clause that when they get started, there's always a month that no service is done. There's an assessment month, right? Where you take at least half of that month to do your assessment or whatever, get them to get all the approvals of, do you like this style? Do you like, what are your colors? All that kind of stuff you have to do for intake, right? So your processes have to make that intake be done in 2 weeks, okay? The other 2 weeks of the first month is where you're going to then plan the next month. But in your contract, these people know they don't get work product until month 2 because the first month is an assessment intake month. Does that make sense?
I was trying to get back to the microphone. It sure does. That's because that's what
So
I've been
what that
easy to-
does is
Yeah.
it keeps you a month ahead. Okay. So that's
Yeah,
one way
yeah.
you can do it. Another way that you can do it is you can do it the same way these folks do us with our rent, right? We need first and last month. Okay. We need first and last month, and that will protect you. That means you don't have to change your process at all. They just have to pay first and last month.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, cool beans. Oh, this is good. This is good. All right. Teray, Which of the 5 risk categories do you feel like is the biggest risk for your business model? And what is the risk within that category?
I'm still taking notes from what you said to Shawana. What the
I
heck?
know, right? That was good. Huh?
It was good. It was good. So I thought it was gonna be cash flow, but what I'm realizing is that it's not. It's process. It's operational risks. It's process inefficiencies.
Okay.
If I can get my process inefficiencies under control, cash flow risk is not an issue.
Okay. So what
feel
I
like-
heard you say is, if I cannot waste my own time because my time is money, I will make more money and have more money. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly that.
Cool
That
beans.
part.
So what I would do is, first of all, is create the process, right? But create the process with the goal of just what are the steps to get to the transformation. All right. Then what we're going to do, as a matter of process, as a matter of how we do things, we're going to always go back and re-review what our process looks like to try to, what steps in this process can be eliminated, or what steps in this process, instead of me manually doing it, can be something automation said. So first, we just need to know how to get them to the transformation, because our goal is to get them to the transformation. Now what we're doing is maybe every month we're looking to see what's going on. What complaints have we had? Externally from the client, internally from the team, or hit from me. You know what I'm saying? How do we fix those? Second of all, let's re-review our process and look and see what tech is available to help us with the things that are manual. For the tech that we already have, what tech out there is even better? So create the process, and then as a process, review your process.
Yeah.
Cool beans. All righty. Let's go to Dr. LaFera. Welcome home, Dr. LaFera. Which of the 5 categories do you have the biggest risk for your business model, and what exactly is the risk within that category?
Thank you, Shay. So I would say, like, I've had all of them because I have done like stuff in like products and all that. So Chinese New Year, that's a problem with the market risk.
Yes.
Yeah. And the operational risk, yeah, it's a problem with that. And for me, like as a doctor, and yeah, mostly as a doctor who does like other stuff, like coaching and that type of stuff. Compliance and reputational, because compliance, I have to figure out like, okay, what's considered like, medical, and what's considered like, okay, are they my patient? Which I know they're not, because I'm a pathologist, that's easy. Or are they my client? And like, what do I have to let them know up front, or how do I have to let them know like this relationship works? And then as far as reputational, I had an issue last night with my challenge, because like the software stuff, and then the people too, like they don't and I've done this to you too. Like they don't necessarily know that they got stuff, because maybe it went to spam, because they didn't check when they first signed up. And so then they're messaging you, or they're writing stuff on your page like, hey, I sent you a DM, I don't have a link or whatever. And then you go in your back end and you see like they got all the emails, but they didn't open up any of them. And then you have to be like, well, you got all of it. And so check your spam, and they're like, oh, I got it. So like for me, it's and I did all this myself. So like so the way I fixed it is like, so the first part of my challenge I already knew was not going to be like live doing anything with you. It was going to be like live talking to you. So you didn't miss anything if you don't have your stuff. And so so with that, like I had it where I was going to be able to like send them a recording, so I'm giving like all the other people who didn't even do VIP a recording, so that it's okay that they didn't get to make it. And it's okay that I didn't get out of the hospital until late. and it's also okay that they didn't know that it was open, but now I have to figure out like, now in the future when I have even more people sign up, because like I had, enough where it was like, work for me to go back and say, okay, you got it. It's in your spam or whatever. It didn't go to everybody's spam, but like when I get a lot of people going back and saying, or having a VA to go back and say, oh yeah, you got it, check your spam, or go on social media maybe and say like, if you don't see it, like check your spam. It's like that makes you seem a little janky, but it's not you. It's like, maybe the
Okay, so you got like 3 things. So let's try to tackle these 3 things.
well,
right?
no, that issue right there is the one that I'm kind of concerned. The other ones I've dealt with, like the supply chain, because I've done
We
this
still
stuff.
gonna tackle them because you had the nerve to say them. So
Okay,
let's start
fine.
with
Let's
Chinese New Year,
tackle.
right?
Let's tackle.
So,
I like
so
tackle.
for those of you who don't have a product, right? A lot of products are sourced out of China. They're manufactured in China, but China has a holiday season called Chinese New Year where they shut everything down. And it don't matter what you need. It don't matter what you want. They not at the they not at the warehouse. They not answering you. Ain't no emails, ain't nothing. And they don't warn you about Chinese New Year, nothing. Okay. It happens and you just ass out if you don't have product. So with that, you probably have figured out you need to do forecasting, right? So you need to know when Chinese New Year starts. You need to every year make it a part of your process to ask your particular manufacturers, when are they going out for Chinese New Year? When are they cycling down manufacturing for Chinese New Year? And you need to use your forecasting to order what you need before they go out for Chinese New Year, right? So I'm sure you figured that out. Another thing that you said was compliance and reputational because you are a doctor. And so again, I would say you need to have disclaimers at every point, at every written point, you need to have disclaimers, but this is also where you need that licensed professional to help you with your particular risk, right? So in the agreements that people sign, you need to have in there the extent that you are helping them. Right. So this, even if you're a part of this challenge, a part of the terms and services should be you're not their medical doctor. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So you want to get your compliance and agreements and disclaimers in check. You want to over communicate your disclaimers at every point. Okay. Because we know that as experts, when we're speaking, we don't think about disclaimers. We don't think about them. That's why Dr. Toya is always having to remind me, hey, you had said something about legal. Might want to say something else, right? So everywhere that things are written, you want to have that disclaimer so that it's pre-planned and already there in your agreements. You want to have it there, okay? Last but not least, your spam process, okay? Why do you think that when you guys sign up for stuff, I go ahead and give you a link to your vault in your confirmation email? And I give you a link to that vault in every email. So that, because one thing I have noticed about spam stuff, that confirmation email rarely goes to spam. Even if every reminder after that goes to spam, that confirmation one rarely goes. So I have a link to the place that you can go get your stuff there. It's nothing in there yet. I don't feel pressed to put nothing in there yet. Y'all know that it's probably going to be the night of that stuff is going to be in there. But you have a link. So when you say, hey, I don't have a link to my vault, what's the first thing I say? It was in your confirmation email. It's going to be in every email, right? So also you need to do reminders because there are times where you are talking to them like now, right? And you need to remind them, hey, make sure you got access, make sure you got access, make sure you got access. One thing about my paid membership is we don't communicate via email, right? We communicate via Slack. If you never join the Slack channel, you're missing most of the stuff that you paid for. Hey, I have your links in different places now. Now you have a dashboard. So and you can opt into a Google Calendar. So if I forget as a matter of process to say, hey, this week we're having a work session and you missed the work session, there were other catch-alls, places you could have known that we was having a work session rather than you lazily waiting on me to remind you the week of or the day of. You see what I'm saying? So as a matter of process, you have to set things up where there's over communication. Because we cannot, because when we are on these email marketing platforms, the platforms themselves have a deliverability grade, not just you. You have one from being within that platform, but the platforms have one. So we can't always, handle that, or it's not our fault. So we try our best based on the knowledge that we have, which is if any other email come through, we know that confirmation email is coming through. Okay, especially if you in an email put like in brackets in the subject line confirmation or download or something, those emails tend to be delivered better than just emails with regular subject lines. Because what it tells the platform is, it tells the algorithm, oh, my person is waiting on this to come in. Right? So yeah, start to use what you know to solve the problems that you kind of expect to have.
That was awesome.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see what we got going on. Heather had to leave, but she said her biggest risk is market risk. I have so thankfully not really had to market my editing services because clients came through referrals, but that has slowed to mere trickle. So I need to take action. And now I have to go. If you guys remember, Heather is an editor of books, right? And what we know is her market is changing. It is market risk for her. It's not revenue, it is market risk. More people are writing books, but more people are doing the pieces themselves or using technology in the publication process rather than people, right? So one of her things is going to be like a Polaroid situation. Either you're going to learn to adapt, right, with the new technology and ride the wave of this innovation, or you're going to get left behind because nobody was really, they want digital cameras. They don't want one where they have to wave this picture and the picture come right in, right? So a lot of us don't even care about having a physical print of the picture. As long as we got the digital version, we're fine. So that easily took Polaroid down for years, right? So she is in a market to where she's going to have to innovate. That's why she's doing things like teaching you how to use AI to write your book. She's teaching you how to take things that you have. Like right now, I'm working on taking my workshops and turning the workshops into books using technology, right? So going to places where you already have content. So she's going to use innovation to help people to write and edit their books. And that's going to help stay ahead of the curve. So she just has to get into marketing that better. So that was her. Let's see. We got Kimberly said, are the emails coming from the same source? I get some and some goes to spam from the same person, but email may be different. Dr. LaFera said they are the same source. Tagging was part of what I do. Yeah, so again, you can't control that. That's why anytime somebody signs up for something, try to give them everything they need in that first confirmation email. Again, you may have deliverables later, but you can create a cloud storage folder for them and give them the link, and the link be in the confirmation email, okay? So try to do that. All right, guys, today was great. It really was. I forgot to do announcements yesterday, so let me make sure I do these announcements today. First of all, if you want the morning show in your inbox, go to shaycannon.com/show. You're going to get a reminder in the morning to hop on the YouTube live for the episode. And in the afternoon, you're going to get an email with 2 links, one to the replay of the episode and one to my show notes, because you know I always give you more, and that more comes from my notes, and I give you my notes, okay? Tomorrow is day 2 of the Clarity Clinic, okay? If you were not on day 1, which was last week, the only way it makes sense for you to participate in day 2 is for you to get the success kit where the replay of day 1 is, okay? The original day 1 was free. But even though day 2 is free, you're going to show up and be lost without that replay from day 1, which is not free, okay? So there's that. By the way, Dr. LaFera, did you ever get access to the replay? Let me know in the comments. Thursday is our movie club night, okay? Movie club night is Thursday in our free group, shaycannon.info/group if you need to be in the free group. Today is the last day to vote on that, all right? Friday is a get shit done work session. And so if you are in the free group, you can join at 3 p.m. Again, shaycannon.info/group to join the free group. Again, so much value in the free group. This morning show only gives you a portion of that value. Go to shaycannon.info/group. All right, guys, I'm about to get out of here. The studio is closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great day, and we'll see you right back